Alright guys, so in today's video we are going to review the iShares Core S&P Small-Cap ETF known as ticker symbol IJR. This is definitely an investment that is more riskier, but if you hold it long term, I think you will see that this is a great fund to hold. So let's get into it. Let's look at the chart. Let's look at the max real quick just to get a good idea. This fund was opened in the year 2000 at $15 and has done nothing but go up over time. It is trading at $107 right now, with a high of $121. Just looking at year to date, this fund has went from 101 up to 109, which is great. So let's break down the composition of this portfolio composition. What exactly is it? The investment seeks to track the investment of the S&P Small-Cap 600 Index, which composes of all small capitalization United States equities. So it generally invests 80% of its funds within the equity market as determined by SPDJI. This is a U.S. equity, passively managed small blend, and this is why the expense ratio is much smaller compared to others. Now, when you look at the portfolio characteristics, we can see the top 10 holdings make up 7%. So these top 10 holdings you see on the left side right here, BlackRock, Fabrinet, Applied, Cytokinetics, etc., make up 7.43%. Meanwhile, the other 600 in this fund companies make up 92.57%, and they are based on North America pretty much alone at 98.96%. The market capitalization, as you can see, small and micro, 55 and 43%. So if you're looking for exposure just to small cap companies, this ETF provides that. Next, sector exposure, as you can see, industrials 18%, financials 17%, consumer discretionary 15%. And the style map, just to reinforce it, is a blend between value and growth, and the small capitalization, less than $2 billion, to be considered for this fund, which is good. If you want more specific exposure, you have banks at 8%, retail at 5%, machinery 5%, and the list goes on and on. All right, so distribution and expenses, the yield is 1.32%, so that's what you will make every year just holding on to this fund, whereas the expenses is 0.06%, which comes out to about $6 for every $10,000 invested. And this shows the distribution type by calendar date. As you can see, it pays dividends quarterly, so look at March of 23, June of 23, September of 23, and December of 23. We have paid a dividend income of around 28 cents, 45 cents, 35 cents, and 32 cents. So it fluctuates a little bit, but that's the dividend history for IJR. So focusing on the ratings and analysis, as you can see, efficiency, tradability, and fit, doing pretty well at 199 and 79 for FactSet. Morningstar gives it a 4 out of 5 star rating out of 585 funds. But what I like to see is the 10-year rating, which is 4 stars out of 5. So that's excellent right there. Looking at the technical sentiment right now, it's 2024. People think that the short-term, mid-term, and long-term sentiment is very strong for this. All right, so looking at the performance and risk, the growth of $10,000, as you can see, 2013, it was $10,000 invested, would go up to about $22,000, $23,000 over 9 years. So doubling your money every 9 to 10 years, which is very good. We're looking at the life of the fund for IJR, and it is about 9.55% with, distributions and expenses removed. So I think that's a very good fund. We're making almost 10% over the lifetime of the fund. I always like to show some comparisons. So when you're on Fidelity, they have a nice tool where it's comparisons. We have our IJR that shows that it's U.S. equity, passively managed, $77 billion in assets with the expense ratio 0.06. The reason I bring this up is because you can see on OVS, which is another one that they can compare to small cap ETFs, the expense ratio is at 0.88%. Doesn't always mean that it's not a good ETF to choose, but if you're just looking for a low cost expense ratio to give you coverage of small cap, IJR is the smallest, except for SPSM. SPSM is worthy of another video because it definitely does compete. It's very similar to IJR, but it gives you exposure with a lower expense ratio at 0.03% as well. So let's take a quick look at the portfolio fundamentals. We can look at IJR, the ETF that we've been showing, versus the US equity mean. So here we go. So expense ratio 0.06 versus the median US equity is about 0.39% expense ratio. So IJR is definitely performing better in terms of fees for shareholders that are buying this. The dividend annualized is higher at 1.32% compared to 1.23%. We have net assets 77 billion, so clearly there's a lot more interest in IJR than the other US equity mean. And overall, the annual turnover ratio is 19% compared to 37%. So there's definitely more loyalty when it comes to IJR long term. So the Fidelity website has a great view all segment where you can kind of just quickly summarize it. So I just want to hit that to recap the video. The iShares Core S&P Small-Cap ETF, ticker symbol IJR. We went over the detailed quote, trading at around $107, expense ratio 0.06%. Net assets is 77 billion. We have the chart over here to show it long term. We showed the max of it. It's gone from $15 up to 107. Analyst ratings, as you can see over here, 4 stars out of 5, especially for the 10-year, which is excellent. Tracking back to the left side, you can see that the tracking error is 14.94%, so it's definitely something to be interested in. But overall, top 10 holdings make up 7% out of 611 funds total for IJR. And as we said before, the recap, IJR's prospectus stated objectives. Investment seeks to track the results of the S&P Small Cap 600 Index of small capitalization U.S. equities, and it does a decent job of that, just that 14% tracking error, so you definitely have to keep that in mind. But as you can see, it's in the United States, 99%, small capitalization, 55%. Its top sector is 18% of industrials, and the life of the fund is 9.54%. So overall, it's done very good. So long term, this is definitely... All right, guys, so thank you for tuning into the channel. This is Trading Simplified, 1.4 thousand subs. If you feel like you learned something, please subscribe, comment, and check out my other videos. I got videos on how to set up automatic investments on Fidelity. I got the Fidelity Active Trader Pro set up. And then I have other analysis on other funds like FSELX, the semiconductors, or other growth funds like FSPGX. So definitely check them out. Definitely appreciate you tuning in, and leave a comment in the section below.